Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What does sensorality stabilize? So I try to give you a little introduction with each episode, but this is part like 394, so we have a lot of catching up to do. But last time we picked up or left off with syllability. Right? What is syllability? It's a word you've never heard before, but words are naturally defined. Syllability is the ability to be a syllable. And so, in any language, sound is the base of language. We are producing results independent of one articulation of logic, one language. Excuse me. And so, but we have this association of sound to meaning. In those sounds, the fundamental unit is a syllable. For example, if I say a, you might be thinking, hey, I'm starting a sentence where I'm going to say a basketball bounces or a dog is sitting right next to me, and he is, and he might start barking. But if I just said a, right, it could be a word, it could just be the sound, but we have some sound, and then as it progresses, a to app, right, an application on your phone, you have some sort of meaning. You have a conceptualization associated to that sound. A, app, apple. Right? Now you know what an apple is, it's different than an app, and an app is different than a. So syllability is sequential. There's certain units that have this association to meaning. An app is not an apple, but they have the same syllability. So we're trying to find this fundamental differentiation, right? You've never heard of the word sensorality before. You've heard of sensation, you've heard of sensors. The fundamental resolution that we are showing is I have senses with an S, S-E-N-S-E. My microwave does not. But if I go and reheat a meal right now, it will say my microwave is sensing, or it is a sensor, S-E-N-S-O-R. That is not consistent. So we have this natural differentiation between filtration done by sentient beings as opposed to inanimate objects. And so going through a lot of the empirical evidence of language, but we have a well-defined analytical process. Speciality is special with an ITY. That is the final complete result from this entire analytical process that produced the natural definition of speciality. Right? Type it into Google right now, it will say it has no definition, but it's the natural tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism. And it's true, right? Anytime a person calls somebody else special, that's what they're acknowledging. Their fundamental differentiation to be themselves. And so that is what we're doing, is we're going through this analytical process to produce the definition of what is sensorality by showing that direct iteration of that syllability. Those irreducible units, sensorality, 5 syllables. And so starting off with that introduction as well as the theorem, which I've called the fundamental theorem of linguistics, which they do evolve and change, is that syllability is irreducible. You can't say the sound A in any other way. You have to put consonants in front of it, way, play, say, hey, but the vowels are the only resonances. Those are the only sounds you can actually make. Consonants, right, you can say t, s, p, and you can get sounds, but it's that combination. And when we have them together, we have a syllable, and it's an irreducible unit of sound. And then we have those syllables paired to meanings. And that's where we all started, right? You associated sounds to meanings as you were a little kid. Ba, ba, wah, wah, mama, da, da, goo, goo, gaga, so on and so forth. And so we continue on. Generosity is attractive. And so as a good example is how syllability builds, right? We have a, app, apple. We have energy, and then generosity. Generosity contains the complete syllability of energy plus more. So we have this linguistic consequence of chronology, language building, language differentiating, language growing. Sensorality is attractivality. Generosity is positivity. Sensorality posits. And so if you're watching this, this is the first series that you've seen, again, logical derivation. As rigorous, well, more rigorous than you've ever seen in math class and physics class at university, but emotion is the range of motion. And so we've identified this overall logical structure of language. It is what it is, being the identity matrix equivalent of linguistics. The fundamental sentence, you can see it is what it is. Everybody says it all the times, but if you look at a bunch of words, you will see it is what it is being iterated, including the word iterated. Moving along. Sensorality posits. Sensorality is unattractive. Censorship does not attract. The opposite of attraction is subtraction. So now again, you would say this dichotomy, addition and subtraction, that's what you're presented in school, but we're differentiating the syllability. Attraction, subtraction. Attraction is a distraction, right? If a really attractive person is walking by, you might turn your head. Distraction subtracts, and that is a natural definition. A natural definition is any chunk of syllability close enough, again we're showing this reduction, that differentiated out from the same sound letter representation. Right? Distraction and subtraction have the same structure, or similar structure. Right? Everything is infinitely unique. Sensorality is a subdivision. Now, a good dichotomy of a subdivision, right? You're in the suburbs, you have a neighborhood, a subdivision, but it's a direct mathematically, ontologically charged word, right? Sensorality is subdivision. A subset is a subdivision, right? We divide something, then we divide it again. We have a set and we take a subset. Logically consistent, a subset is a subdivision. Can sets be divided? A set is set. It cannot change. So can you change something? Is change reducible? Well, if you can change it, does it have to be a reduction? Again, any question that we pose is to elicit the logic that is presented by the words. Moving along. Sensorality is existentiality. Essential, existential. Last time we called that a natural definition. Essential has two S's and existential has one, not fully producing the word essential, but enough of the syllability where we called it a natural definition. Sensorality is existentiality. Right? If someone has an existential crisis, basis, what does that mean? Like some form of regret or this emotional output. But here, again, worth pointing out is we have our sensorality. We've shown the linguistic motivation to progress it from this. Both the spellings will be on your screen right now, but to the one that produces reality, right? That proves sensorality is real directly linguistically. And then sensorality is existentiality, directly produces the syllability that reality exists. And now, most of you average people that don't learn in academia or in philosophy or philosophy of physics probably like, oh, that's interesting or cool. But that's like the end of philosophy, right? We've proven reality exists by exhausting the linguistics in which you can articulate that conceptualization. And so, again, philosophy has never been anything to me. It's not a unique domain of ontology. It's effectively like conjecture that is accepted as never being part of an actual derivation, but all of language is logical, right? All of language is a structure of logic. And so when people say, to be or not to be, or, whatever, historically is like, I think, therefore I am. Nope, you are, therefore you can think. But all of this progression of what is historically called as philosophy is just like, again, mathematical conjecture at this complete level. But existence is real. We have now proven that by direct derivation, which is the highest level of It's the only completeness of proof that you can generate or can be shown. Sensorality is existence. All of the things around you are censoring. And now we're trying to geometrically show what's the right spelling by our conceptual alignment, getting our ideas in the right order, and then the linguistical representation, the letters, is trivial. And that it is a worthwhile, I've already proven this, right? Speciality is special with an ITY, validates all of these analytical this whole process, so we know that the solution is inevitable. I mean, all realization is inevitable. Sensorality is existence. What is sense to existence? Emphasizing the C in sense of existence, and then the SE and SE of sense, the actual word. What is this fundamental iteration? Again, it's a chronological consequence that we're showing linguistically. Existence is being. What is existing to thriving? right? When everyone's saying, hey, I'm being treated inhumanely, as I am, and people say, I'm just existing, I'm not thriving. A clear differentiation people make, living is thriving, momentum thrives. Vocality is modality. That is a natural definition, again, because of the direct iteration of the V and the C in the M and the D. The odality is the same, or the O-ality is the same from both. What you can call a natural definition, it's very instinctual for me and it's very clear as well. But like I said, outside of a fundamental reduction or a proof of some stature, it's pretty pointless. Or it's all trivial, but in certain places it's worth pointing out. So now then we have natural definition, and in the next line of the derivation, I have a direct iteration, right? Loving is moving. The O-V-I-N-G from both words are the exact same, so geometrically it's symmetric, so it's like inconsequential. And so a direct iteration is, again, the English alphabet is some sort of consolidation of information and differentiation. We have our letters, most of them are E, we went through all of that. But there's a sequence to it, right? L-M, loving is moving, M is directly sequential to L, or after L. And so we have locality is modality. And that is a direct iteration, because again, the L goes to the M, direct, it's the next element, L-M, and then from locality, L-O-C, the next different letter is the C, but after C is D, and so you have from L to M to C to D, from locality to modality. So it's another direct iteration. Modality is sequential, right? When you play a musical key and you play one of the modes of a given key, where you start and how you progress through them produces the key. Where you start produces the mode. Count, accounting. We can restate the fundamental theorem of mathematics. Arithmetic is accounting. And again, linguistically, arith. So I'll have it spelled both on the screen for the same fundamental theorem, but I have arithmetic is accounting spelled one way, and then arithmetic, the proper word, spelled another way. It was just very natural, so I put both up there. But again, logically, accounting, a word you hear in finance, but literally logically, the structure of the word, it's built on count, right? Arithmetic is counting. And so arithmetic is accounting. And then we have this, because we have to have this logical linguistic completeness. And then arithmetic, again, is that it's the contraction of theme. The basis of mathematics is thematics. Then you have arithmetic, but then the R-I-T-H-M is just like algorithm. And so arithmetic is accounting. Sensorality is accounting. Orality counts. Is counting contextual? Sequentiality is essentiality. Is space sequential? Chronology is sequential. Logic is sequential. Algorithms are exponential. And so now logically we're taking, again, the direct word form, algorithm, from rhythm to algorithm. Algorithm is a direct iteration, meaning a changing of the letter order of logarithm, which is a well-defined mathematical thing. And then we have, what is a logarithm? A logarithm is an exponent. And so why do we have this form of logarithm, natural log, base E? Then you ask the question, when you see the form of a natural log, you'll ask yourself, e to what power equals the thing in parentheses? That is the actual practical verbiage people say to themselves when they're executing logarithms. As you'll get log base something, and then something in parentheses equals x, and then you say to yourself, the base to what power, what exponent gives me the thing in the parentheses, which is an interesting relation of an algorithmic or logarithmic notation, one and the same now, to function, right? F of x. And so, right, a logarithm is a function, but it's clearly got a little more oomph to it in terms of notoriety in mathematical ontology. And so algorithms are exponential. Exponentiality is sequentiality. Sequential, preferential. Sensorality is preferentiality. Sequentiality is consequential. And so that is a natural definition. And so, like I said, just moving through all of the videos in big green letters, those are major proofing steps. At this final reduction stage, most of them are major steps, but just working through, finding, again, once our conceptualization is in the right place, the linguistics is trivial, but we're completing it, right? We have sensorality, this variable, but once we show the direct iteration, it will be fixed, it will be set, it will have a direct, clear working definition amongst all of other ontology, and by progressing the linguistics in the way we've done so, it's consistent, right? The part that a lot of people might think is like, oh, it has to fit in with all of other science. But if you actually do science, if you go out into the world and say, hey, I'm going to try to answer a question, and you're, like, to me, scientific bias is never like a thing. But if you actually answer a question, if you actually do the process of mathematics, not going to high school and, you know, getting an A on a test, but realizing something, then articulating a proof, it can't not be consistent with the rest of ontology. And so it might seem like a big thing, like, oh, the 21st century, proving fundamental science. That's always how it's done, though, is it has to be consistent if you're really doing mathematics and really doing science. But the reality is most people really have careers and they're not actually doing science, and they've never done science. And now they're all like, huh, we've just been committing fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy because not publishing this result is a violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution. So I always integrate our legal citations into our videos because it's true. And to the people watching this and have destroyed my entire existence, see, I just appealed to existence as not living. It's ruined my whole life. Like everything I've ever worked for, ever tried, and I'm just sitting here asking for a little bit of money so I can genuinely go to the grocery store, buy what food when I want it. That's it. I've never been food secure in my entire life. Ever. It has never occurred. So I continue to beg for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work, and we just continue to progress through our derivation. It is very literally a physical limit, and there's a lot of logic that we just have to work through. But that is what I have for you today. Thank you for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.